Okay, Ms. Fuller.
The Nottaway County Board of Supervisors workshop has now come to order. Mr. Bowen, will you give us the invocation, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Let's go to the Father. Lord, again, we come together, and as the Chairman just said, I think we just seen each other, Father, and we know that we still got a lot of work ahead of us, and we just ask you for your presence and your wisdom. And Lord, we lift up the people who that's going through this COVID and following sickness. Sonny and I had conversations recently about some people getting sick, and we just had some people I know today that got the second shot, and they're suffering. And Father, we lift them up to you as well. Now we just ask you to be with us and guide us. Through Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I think I said Sonny's name in my prayer.
You did.
You did. You did.
It's just a work session. It's not the real.
But now do the pledge
Anything
of
happen right
allegiance.
with Brian.
Pledge allegiance
Allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of
America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have some issues for our discussion. We have Sandy River, the water resolution. We also have the Courthouse complex cleanup ice storm and the Economic Development Commission. You want to do the Sandy River first?
Yes, so that's first thing on
Yes,
the
that's the
agenda.
first.
Follow agenda, yes, sir.
Right on.
Good.
As you all were notified, we sent out an invitation for a special meeting of the Board of Supervisors and Blackstone, Burkeville, and Crewtown Councils. Doug Stanley, Joe Hines, and representatives from the Commonwealth to discuss the Sandy River resolution. The special meeting will be held on Wednesday, March 17th at 6 p.m. in the Officers Club. We have not received many confirmations about attendance. We have received some, and we've received 2 emails that declined attendance from state invitees, so I don't know that they necessarily want to be part of the discussions next week. We do have tonight with us Brian Thrower, Crewtown manager, and he'd like to address the board about this issue.
Well, thank you. I appreciate y'all having me here tonight. Thanks, John, for having me on the agenda tonight.
Hey, man.
I just want to take like 5 minutes of your time, if that much. You know, excuse
Thank you,
my,
sir.
my
Yeah, thank you.
lack of artistic skill here. But, this is the best I can do in quick time frame. This is a
Thank you.
printout of our GIS system, and this kind of ties into the whole water issue, although it's not the primary driving reason, but it does tie into this issue with the water. One thing that the town council has been discussing here recently is a proposed boundary line adjustment with the county. This would, if you see with your GIS here, the purple line on the GIS map is the current town limits. And if I added all this up correctly, it looks like there's 21 parcels that would be involved. We wanted to, tonight I just kind of looked, the town council wanted to run this idea by you just to chew on a little bit, think through. This proposed boundary line adjustment would basically incorporate the area from the current town limits. It would encompass the properties you see with the various property owners on that map, the state facilities, all the way over to 360. And town council has basically authorized me informally to move forward on this if the Board of Supervisors, if y'all are willing to consider this request. You know, I don't really see any downside to the county on this. There would be increased tax revenues to the town, personal property, real property, potential depot if those parcels were ever developed, machinery and tools, those type of things, increased service area for the town, increased services for those parcels and properties with police, trash pickup, and other various town services that they were incorporated into the town limits. The state employees and state facilities would have increased advocacy if any issues were to arise, having both the county and town work in conjunction to advocate on their behalf. Also, a big thing this would do from the town's perspective is, you know, we're under 3,500 population now. I'll be interested to see what the census says we are, but we're probably around 21 or 2,200 folks now. But if we were to take in the state facilities population, that would push the town population over 3,500. And what that basically does is, you know, the town would receive, we're trying to get a figure from VDOT now of what kind of revenue that would look like, but there would be several hundreds of thousands of dollars that the state would, VDOT would send in street maintenance payments to the town that we would basically be in charge, like Blackstone does, of maintaining the town streets, which would be a big boon to the town from that standpoint. So anyway, I just wanted to give that to you. This is the proposal that the town's offered to you. I did attach, I'm sure y'all already know this, and probably been through this before. This is the state code section on boundary line adjustments. Basically, the town and county would put together an agreement, go through a public hearing process, send out notifications to the property owners, and if everything went smoothly, petition the court to put that in place. It looks like it's a rather, you know, if all sides agree and there's no pushback from any of the property owners, looks like it's a fairly simple government, a fairly simple and fast process if that were to come to fruition. But anyway, the town council would like to proceed with this and ask that you consider moving forward in a voluntary manner with the town on this request. And if, you know, obviously you're gonna have to talk more about it, but if you're so inclined, allow the deputy county administrator, myself, and the county and town attorneys to work on putting an agreement together for both governing bodies to consider and move forward. So I'll try to answer any questions if you have any.
This would take in the hospital as well as BCBR, as well as the land we just sold.
Yes, all the way, if that includes up to 360, yes.
Right, okay. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Do you have any, is there any cost associated with the filing and stuff like that? Just,
The filing?
yeah, like if, you know,
I
with
mean,
the
I think it
court.
would be minimal cost. You have to send notifications to them. It's just, I guess it's similar to going through I mean, I'm sure it's more involved than, you know, it's any kind of land use proposal. You have to send notice to the property owners. I'm sure there's some filing fee with the court.
Right.
And, you know, the town and county could split that cost. Or we could come up with some arrangement. I think that would be fairly minimal cost.
Right. And the Crew Fire Department would then be first call to respond.
Yeah, those are some of the questions we would have to figure out, that we would need to talk to both fire departments about. I think Burkeville handles the fire service there now.
Yeah, their first call to that location now. And
You know, those are some of the details we would have to work out. We just haven't had enough time to work through some of these issues, but obviously that would entail a meeting between the two fire departments and to figure out who services what.
yeah, they would still be doing, Burkeville would still be doing the EMS calls there,
Yeah,
first call to
We did
them.
check into police too. It's my understanding today that state police handles police issues, law enforcement issues that security can't handle. So
Yeah, on
there
state
really
property.
would be much more on our side for police. But,
Mr. Chairman, I know we're not making any motions tonight, but I have no objections to getting this thing moving forward to a public hearing.
Right, we can't vote on anything.
Right,
until-
right.
yeah, okay.
Brian,
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
By incorporating the state facilities into the Crew Town limits, does this put you in a stronger or different position
Yeah,
as
thank
far
you.
as the
I'm
Sandy
sorry.
River?
I forgot to go into that. Basically, as you already know, that, what that would do, if we were to jointly, agree to, go into an agreement to extend the boundaries, that would, in effect, simplify y'all's decision, I guess, on the resolution, where, Prince Edward County would have to request basically the same resolution from, instead of Nottaway County, the town, and it would be our choice as to whether we allow them to come on, hook onto the, or go with another option aside from the town. Now, all that said, you know, from the water standpoint, until a lot of the questions are answered and details put together, you know, at the end of the day, a regional solution may be the best option. But nobody, I don't think anybody in this room at this point can answer that question, but it would put the town in control of answering that question as opposed to the board. You know, they could still run, y'all would still have to answer the question up to, you know, the town limits, Parkville and whatnot, but that would keep the town in control of that question.
Would that, do we know whether, as it stands right now, or whether under this proposal, would either the town or the county, depending on how this was arranged, have any control over the state and any negotiations they wanted to enter into with a different water solution? Or if the state decided they wanted to obtain their water elsewhere, would any of this give you any control, give anybody any control over that?
The way that, like most localities, if the residence or business or commercial user is within the city or town limits, like our ordinance reads now, they have to hook on and stay part of the town or city system, or county system. Now, I think the resolution they gave, Prince Edward gave y'all last week, basically that state code section says they can, there's some process where they can petition and have a special court come in to answer that question if the locality does not agree to it. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what that process looks like, but I would think if they're already on a town or city, or town in this case system, I don't see a whole lot of legal standing they would have to, in effect, come off the town system to go to it, unless the town wanted it to happen, which at the end of the day, that may be the best solution. But anyway, the town would, in effect, have more control over the matter.
Some years ago, I can't remember how many, I could if I thought about it. Crew came within 12 days of not having enough water to supply to its citizens. Should that occur again, it can happen with a long drought. What would happen? You would have to, rather than do the state, you would have to take care of your citizens in Crew first. So how would you deal with that?
I don't have the answer to that question. I've never run into that situation, and hopefully that's something that will not happen. But if you said that's happened in the past, obviously we would have to come up with a way to ration water to some degree. That's a good question, though.
That's when discussion was really made about hooking up to Blackstone at that time. Mm-hmm. And Blackstone would have to run the lines, and of course they can't run the lines unless they're adequately reimbursed for that. Even if Sandy River brings it over here to Nottaway, they're going to have to be reimbursed as well. And that's where the problem, I don't have any answers either.
Can you see any disadvantages? I'm just playing out scenarios. If you pull the state facilities into the Crew Town limits, and the state was able to establish that Crew's water infrastructure, or that there was reason for concern that their water needs may not be met, then could it become incumbent upon the town of Crew to invest a lot of money. I mean, do you see any downside to any of
I
this?
mean, yeah, we've got a PER now that outlines about $25 million of improvements, assuming we just stayed on our own system.
Uh-huh.
I'm not an engineer, but don't quote me, but the reservoir needs dredging, I think that's $5 or $6 million. The 1911 water line that runs from the plant down the railroad track, that's another $6 million. Several millions of dollars of improvements at the water plant. That would have to be done, assuming we do not enter in some kind of regional agreement with Prince Edward County. Now, if we were to enter in an agreement with Prince Edward County, that they would provide the water, and that in effect would potentially take our water treatment plant offline and reduce some of those unknowns like the reservoir. You wouldn't basically need it at that point. You would have probably a more stable water supply, may be able to provide water cheaper to the customers. Now, we would still have the issue with the distribution system and maintaining the water lines we would have to pay for, but those are some of the advantages potentially to a regional water approach. So this proposal doesn't take off the table a regional water approach, but
Okay.
it does give the town a little bit more control of what we think are in the best interest of the town, and the other benefits that I went through initially as well.
Well, and that was the thing too, Mr. Chairman, that I noticed in the conversation with with Mayor Miskovic, was that nothing was off the table regardless of what happened with this. They were going to look for the best solution moving forward, whether it was hooking in, going on their own, reselling the water. You know, they have every option on the table. That's the reason why I know I was kind of quick to say, but I'd had this discussion with the mayor, so that's the reason why I said I was fine moving forward if we decide to do that with a public hearing.
And I've talked to Doug and Stanley and Joe Timmons a few times about this, and we've had conversations, and I've known those guys for years. And you know, it depends when we start getting into details. You know, that's where you're going to have to decide what's in the best interest of the town and everybody else.
Right, and that's what the mayor had reiterated to me, was that everybody was still in a positive state of mind moving forward, and that even with this is just an extra layer of protection to protect the town of Crewe from possibly going bankrupt, you know, in a short manner of speaking. But at the same time, it's still open door with everybody at the table.
But like I said, we're not expecting any kind of answer tonight. I know y'all have to think about it and do your due diligence, and but the town is eager to get started with this, and we appreciate y'all's consideration. And if y'all do want to go forward, John and I can work together with our attorneys and come up with an agreement to present to both governing bodies.
Has the Corps of Engineers looked at Crystal Lake? Has the encroachment precluded them doing anything with Crystal Lake?
I'm not personally aware of the Army Corps coming over there. I've only been with the town for a year, so I'm not personally aware of that. They could have in the past. I don't know. But, I do know our engineers have put together, Fred and Profit, they put together a PER that was finalized in June of last year. That outlines millions and millions of improvements. So, yeah, one way or another, however you slice it, it's a lot of money going somewhere that improvements have to be made. But anyway, we appreciate y'all's consideration of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, Katie, if you would, you know, on our agenda, and I hear Mr. Thrower, and I understand what he's trying to do here, and the mayor, but on our agenda it says Sandy River water resolution is what we're supposed to be discussing, and we don't went from that to a boundary line. I don't think that's the same subject. So I think we should have had no discussion about it tonight, just for the record.
Okay, you're exactly right. So we'll deal with this later at a later day. I need for you all to tell me what to do with this resolution. We either have to, we're discussing it now. Only the resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know that we should even consider it until after we've participated in the upcoming joint meeting with crew and Prince Edward and everyone else is at the table.
The meeting is scheduled shortly, right? It's like the,
Next
Ne-
week,
Next week,
17th.
next week,
What day is that?
Next Wednesday.
next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. You want to wait until after we have the joint meeting, is that right?
That's what you all had said you wanted to
We were
do,
gonna
so
do
that the
that.
3 towns could participate.
What about it, boy?
Yes, yes, I would agree to discuss this after the meeting.
Okay. Okay. We'll wait until after the meeting to discuss this. Okay, we'll move to the courthouse complex cleanup in ice storm.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Soon after the ice storm, our office requested prices to clean up the courthouse complex from all the damage. But the bids were extremely high soon after the event because there was so much competition for those companies that did that type of work. Our question to you tonight is, do you want a cleanup to be limited to just disposing of the brush that you see out in the yard? Or do you want an arborist to evaluate all the trees on the complex grounds, prune them as needed, and dispose of the debris? Kirby Woolfolk, our county forester, recommends using an arborist. He has offered us a list of 4 arborists that his counterpart in Chesterfield County has offered. The arborists offer the advantage of being able to examine, evaluate each of the trees to see which trees maybe even need to come down, which trees need to be pruned, basically for the overall health of the tree after so much damage from the ice storm. So what we would like for you all to tell us how you want to proceed, whether we search for bids for just someone to pick the brush up and carry it off, or whether we get somebody who can actually look at all the trees and make an evaluation of them.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we do a brush cleanup, and knowing we've got spring coming, we can kind of see if any of the damage to the trees, if anything starts dying after it greens, and possibly even look at the following year before you may need to do anything with any type of tree trim or anything. You'll be able to see, what greens, what's dying and everything. I don't disagree that an arborist would be the one to tell you what to do with it, but I don't know that we're at that point right now where we would need an arborist unless you just wanted to do it for safety's sake.
Mr. Boyd.
I'm just going to do what I did at Piedmont, and I would do the same thing here. He's got to clean up stuff on the ground. It looks terrible, and state procurement says if it's under $10,000, go ahead and proceed with it. It's got to be cleaned up. So that's what I did at Piedmont. Then the second phase of it, which should be probably the priority, if you got a tree limb that's broke up in the air, and somebody walk us under it, and if it falls on them, because we still have them falling at Piedmont, somebody's going to get sued and get hurt. So that needs to be taken care of instead of going through this, getting bogged down with bidding and that kind of thing. Safety first. Then I'm okay with going further into it with, seeing which trees are dying, what can we do with them, that kind of thing. But anything with egress, if I've got a tree the limb is broke, I look when I park, there's 2 or 3 right here. And I know people walk out with the dog, and it may come off the sidewalk. But that stuff has got to be cleaned up. And then the stuff on the ground is going to kill the grass. So we need to get it off the ground. So I say give the deputy county administrator the authority to clean up. And let's not get bogged down on too much on pricing. I think he's been around in the county long enough that he knows the people he can trust and who he can't trust.
I would agree with what Mr. Bowen said.
Dan?
I agree.
Okay. I need a motion.
Can't take
No,
motion.
no motion.
Nope.
We
No,
just,
I'm sorry.
we just need a direction as y'all want us to go, that's all.
Move on.
The next item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, is the personnel policy, and Ms. Shackleton has something that information that she wants to give you on that.
I think it's toward the final quarter of 2020, the Personnel Committee at that time presented an updated personnel policy with the intention of conducting an internal review and then presenting that policy for board approval. Since that time, I think there have been a number of questions and along with FOIA requests related to our current personnel policy. Additionally, the board was put on notice that a personnel decision relating to an employee's paid leave was going to be or had been reported to the state police. Because of the number of charges involved and concerns about the policies, I don't think it's advisable for supervisors to implement this type of policy revision prior to a review by legal counsel. Hopefully before the board meeting next week, I'd like, if we can, to get a cost estimate for just the review and then determine whether, according to procurement law, we need to advertise for bids or just report back to the board or seek a vote at the next meeting.
I concur, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chad. That's a good.
I agree.
If I can add to that, I met with VDM this morning, still doing damage assessment overview, and we were talking about issues related to policy wording when it comes to overtime, compensatory leave, those types of things. And they said that anytime things like this happen is when they figure out places that need updates when it comes to that wording. And they strongly suggested that any policy update we consider the verbiage that includes specific emergencies related to natural disasters, those kinds of things, so that you never have any question or any accountability issues, whether you're eligible for FEMA reimbursement.
I got you.
Just throwing that out there, because it was today's topic.
Good points.
And see, things like, you're talking about these HR issues and things like that, so just like this storm, and it really hit some of the employees that I deal with. So the storm came, I don't know, February 13th, 15th, 12th, 13th, Saturday. Well, Monday was a holiday. So you couldn't get time and a half if you were scheduled to be off. You with me? Mm-hmm. You see, they work Sunday, but you got to work over 8 hours. So, but you got to have that. You better have that in some kind of policy so people understand that. But anyway, give me another example.
All right.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the next item is employee health insurance RFP and timeline, and Ms. Shackleton also has a report on that.
I think I mentioned to you at our meeting yesterday, I've got a timeline. We need to get out an RFP for employee benefit insurance broker, because the brokers in turn have to put out RFPs to the carriers, and that has to occur in June. So I've got a template that was provided for the RFP, the broker RFP. I've got the timeline I'll share with you. My question is, do we have to have any kind of board action next week to get the RFP out, or is that something that you can just proceed with?
I think you can proceed with it.
Let's do board action on that. I wouldn't say that if things weren't like they are.
All right, I'll bring it back to the board for a vote
Okay.
next week
Thank
then,
you.
and I'll share this information before we leave tonight.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is emergency operations, and what question we have for you all tonight is, does the board intend to hire a coordinator before or after the new fiscal year begins? If you do it before, we're going to need to gather information from you concerning on how many hours a week and rate of pay, so we can present you with a draft advertisement for the position that you can consider. We've put some information on your desk, some additional information from Virginia localities on what they do for emergency management. Some of them will give you information about the duties. Some of it will give you information about average pay, that type of thing for your review. This is not something you necessarily have to tell us tonight, because we'll probably bring it up at the board meeting next Thursday, but we want you all to be thinking about it so that if you do want to move forward on it, we can get going.
Yeah, we discussed it briefly during the budget meeting yesterday.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I interject one thing?
Okay.
Have we advised that the after-action report that the state had planned to provide for us, we've now been notified that we would have to contract
Yeah.
to have that report issued. So I guess another thing for the board to consider is whether we want to get bids or get a pricing on this and contract for the report before we look at the position, or whether we just want to assess ourselves.
Ms. Shackleton's exactly right. We received word from Donna Pletch of the Department of Emergency Management that she's given us contact information for contractors who are capable of conducting the after-action review. And all of them are under state contract, and they can be used by localities once you decide which one you prefer. She's recommending that we reach out to the companies that she's listed and get quotes from them. And then once we decide to do that, we let them know, and then that company will actually perform the after-action review.
Okay. Any comments on that?
Well, John, you might get us. Did I have a button in front of you? I don't know if you. Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Chairman. So, all right.
I didn't recognize John. I recognize.
No, I got you. I thought he. I don't know. Anyway, sorry about that. So, what I'm asking, can we make some changes to the EO's, the emergencies operation, not center, but the book? What is it?
Plan.
The plan.
Plan. Can we make changes to the plan now, like contact numbers, in case we have an emergency before we get?
Yeah.
You with me? Is that too much of a load for the staff, John? Is what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, no, but we are at about the busiest time of the year, and
Budget, I know.
short-handed. But you're right. That's the kind of thing that if we didn't have an emergency, you'd probably get the person to do that type of work. But as far as things like telephone numbers, sure, we can get that done.
Because I'm thinking maybe if I thought that we're all responsible here, so maybe we all should get a copy. I know I'm killing more trees or sending electronically, but get a copy, and maybe we can help fix some stuff now, or give, you with me, Katie? I'm just saying that so it won't be on a load on your staff, that we could look at the book and start trying to fix things, but still move forward what we're heading to, John. I'm just trying to.
Sure.
This after action plan is going to be here soon.
Right. Yeah, but the contact numbers have got to be fixed.
Yeah.
That was like just one thing that came.
Things like that. I mean, we're supposed to update those plans regularly, and it wasn't done. Yeah. So we know we've got to do that. So yeah, we can get those types of things done. And when you want to make more substantive changes to it, if you decide to get a coordinator by then, that's going to be one of their duties, is to try to find out how we can improve what we have. And the after-action review will also give us maybe some suggestions on what we need to do in the next review.
Right. But I think he has two part of a question, and I'm sorry again, but he has two. Well, I think there's another question that I'm okay starting. I'm all about we need an emergency services coordinator, and if we need to get that, and I don't know if we can get it done in this budget, but that ball needs to start rolling now. And I don't want to wait till July and go, all right, let's go. Yeah. I say let's roll with something now. It ought to be enough money in the budget.
That's the question for you, though, because we need to start formulating the advertisement, the experience required, the duties required, all of those types of things we need to start working on if you want it done pretty quick before July 1st.
I'm ready for that to be a priority outside of what y'all are already doing with the budget and stuff.
That's one of the goals that I.
Those are your goals. Well, but I mean, is it part-time or full-time, guys? That's the trouble. I can't wrap that around my head.
You're gonna see inside your package that there are gonna be some places that are full-time and some places that are part-time. And you just have to judge how much work you think is gonna be needed, or particularly at the beginning, and determine that, because you've also got to determine what kind of salary you're looking at.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. What qualifies them as part-time? Is that 30 hours or under, or 28 or under?
I think it's 29 hours.
Yeah.
29
hours with the.
So if we basically looked at $35,000 to $40,000 for that position for 29 hours, I think we would be safe, wouldn't we?
Right,
From
yeah,
what I was
yeah, mean,
reading in here.
For instance, if you looked at a half a week, 20 hours, and if you paid $25 an hour, that's gonna be $400 a month.
Right.
And that's about $20,000, $21,000 a year, and that's just half of a work week. So if you expanded that to a full year, you're talking about $40,000.
Right. And maybe, and maybe it can help unite, the coordinator. That's the other thing I think about the more of a unification for the departments as well.
We need, not only do we need a coordinator, we need a center. It's too small over there where we're working, and you can't space out. We don't have the proper equipment. All of that's going to be included in there.
Yes, sir.
And I mentioned that I'd like for us to take a visit, not one visit, but several visits to other people who have centers,
What you
other
doing tomorrow?
cities and towns. Some people are far ahead of us.
Yeah. What you doing tomorrow? You want to go for a ride?
So I say put it on the,
So do you want us to start drafting a basic advertisement, list of duties?
Yes.
And then when you all get closer to time, you can decide how many hours and how much
I
money.
think that'd be a
Yeah,
good
that's
start.
right.
Yes, sir.
That'd be a
So
good-
that way
very
we
good
can at
start.
least get the ball rolling before
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
it gets too late.
Maybe you want
So
to
that's
Okay.
start with the job description. I
Yeah,
think,
exactly. Now, the other thing is about the after-action report that Ms. Shackleton mentioned and that Donna Pletch from VDM talked to us about. There's a list of satisfactory firms that can do that for us. Do you want us to contact those firms and get a price on what they will do the after-action report? Because it's going to take someone with some expertise to do that right.
Yes, sir.
And
Yeah,
we don't have the
Yes, sir.
time nor the experience to do that.
Yes.
We want it done
Okay,
right.
all right.
And so they do they facilitate a meeting and all that stuff too, guys?
They will, it's my understanding what they will do is that they will interview basically everybody involved, and they will kind of get an idea of what was good, what was not so good, and, what we can do better next time.
Gotcha.
One big long 209 form.
Yeah, 209, that's right.
Let's move on.
All right, I've got two items that have come up since we sent the agenda out, and I'd like to go over real quickly with you. One is I have not advertised a public hearing for the bowling center lease because I don't have a lease to advertise. In the February meeting, Mr. Bowen amended the motion to review the lease to determine if it had desired provisions to protect the county. Those provisions were not outlined at the time, and I'm not sure the county attorney knows what the board considers adequate protections. So you're not going to have a public hearing next week because there's nothing to show anyone if they came into the office to see what we were advertising. So I'm just letting you know that's where we are on that.
Okay.
All right, the second thing is we have had a citizen this morning to state that he thinks he should be able to bring a firearm into the courtroom when a board meeting is held because it's a public meeting place. Now, there's a question about whether a courtroom is always a courtroom or whether it's just when court is in session. It may take a board decision or a judge's order to clarify the issue. Do you want that on the agenda for next week?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I heard the options. It may be a judge. It has to be a judge decision.
I have contacted the clerk to ask the judge
Okay.
if they'll be willing to issue an opinion or a decision.
Right.
But I haven't heard back because I just found out about it this morning.
And see, the point of that, and I'm just trying to think like the bad guy. I know most people who carry the weapons are most people are responsible people. But I think what the problem is, suppose somebody comes in here, straps the gun under the seat,
That's exactly
doing
what,
this meeting, goes out, comes in here to the courtroom, and then tries to kill
That's
the judge. I mean,
exactly-
that's the thing.
That's
It's in the
exactly-
courtroom all the time.
that's what Sheriff
That's right.
Jones is
That's right.
concerned about.
That's
And
right.
that's probably what the judge is certainly gonna be concerned about.
Right.
But I'll put it on the agenda for next Thursday. And if I find out that the judge has issued an opinion or decision, I will let you know then. But in absence of that, there is some question. The sheriff has asked several people, and most of the answers are, it's always a courtroom. But, you know,
The citizen contacted me today, was disturbed because according to his report, the sheriff said that he was instructed not to allow firearms in, and he thought that that instruction was provided without a board vote. He said if the board had voted on it, even if he disagreed, he would have felt that it was at least a vote of the whole board, so.
right.
But so that's what the whole point of it is. So we put it on agenda because it's still a courtroom.
That's right.
I mean, am I correct what I say? The judge can come in here and take that sign down, and God we trust, correct?
Yes, and has done that.
He does that.
Has done that.
Because the taxpayers own the building, but
But
he
it's his
controls
courtroom.
this courtroom.
Right.
Okay.
And the idea is that if we don't get a judge's opinion
Right.
or decision, you all may want to make some type of decision at the board meeting. That's the
Gotcha.
reason we probably need to put it on the agenda.
Okay, put it on the agenda
Okay,
and we'll
all right.
make a decision.
Mr. Chairman, we've got two things to go into closed session about. One is Code 2.2-3711-A1 personnel. The second is Virginia Code 2.2-3711-A6, and that is negotiations. I do not expect it'll take long to go over what we need to talk about.
I move that we go into closed session.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I think you can just let us go because we can't make a motion. You can just,
She's already made the motion.
but we're in a work session. You could just gavel,
Just
you
go.
could just gavel to closed session.
You're right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Take it off.
John, I keep forgetting it's a work session.
I know, yeah, you reminded me the first time. Just returning the favor.